We're really excited to be here and want to thank the Sportico team and Scott for inviting us to participate. See so many friends in the audience today, so we're excited to be here. You know, normally I'd say it's tough to follow a group that's got Blitzer and Cal Ripken, but if I got a three-time Olympian in the house and gold medalist. Dom, do you have any hardware with you by chance? Can we see a little? Can we start this off with a little?
I normally pass it around. I just pulled it out of my junk drawer today, so a lot of people
there
remember
we go.
these
I don't know if
Olympics.
Eli brought his rings, but we've got gold medals in the house. But I think for this panel, I think what's really important is for us to start with a little bit of background on each of the panelists. And so, with André, if I can start down at the end. A New Yorker at heart, so we're at home, from the Bronx, and I'm a Blue Devil, so I know we've got a few Blue Devils around here, but a proud UConn grad, and has really taken Connecticut by storm. An entrepreneur who started with event and promotions company. Moved on to work in the banking space with JP Chase, and then decided he'd start a tech company, an ad tech company, which in his exit, one of the top 10 exits for a black entrepreneur in the history of business. So, I mean, shout out to you, brother, in getting that done, and puts him in a position where he is now investing in an expansion team with MLS Next Pro in Connecticut, the Connecticut United, which will be getting started soon. When?
26.
There we go, in 26. So excited to see him do that, and you'll hear a lot of things about him moving forward. Damian, who hails from New Orleans, actually, but we know him from the great state of North Carolina, an HBCU grad, North Carolina A&T, if there are any Aggies in the house. But spent time in Greensboro and started as a car salesman, and then moved into minority ownership, and now owns over 30 dealerships in 6, soon to be 7 states, I believe. Is that correct?
Correct.
And to have my number right, is 30 how many?
32.
32 dealerships. So the largest group of African-American owned dealerships in the United States, which puts him in a position to then be able to buy into the Charlotte Hornets, as well as to 2 of the soccer teams as well in the state of North Carolina, including the NWSL squad down there. Dominique Dawes, we talked about her Olympic career, 3-time Olympian, 1996 Atlanta gold medalist. We could go on and on. President's Council of, I forget the name, fitness and sports and everything, right? Co-chair of that has started the Dominique Dawes Gymnastics and Ninja Academy back in 2020. Now has multiple locations, continues to grow that, and has moved into ownership in recent years. And I will add, also had a statue, a life-size statue of herself unveiled in her hometown of Silver Spring, Maryland. Shout out to the DMV at the end of this summer. So congratulations, Dom.
Thank you very much.
And thank you, everybody, for participating in this panel. So let's start with the how. André, how did you start this journey towards team ownership?
My wife asks the same thing all the time. Just really have a track record of starting stuff, right? I don't like working for other people, so I like starting my own thing. Owned my first nightclub when I was 23, my first restaurants when I was 24. Did work for somebody for a little while when I was at JP Morgan, but I built a $250 million business by 28. Had my first tech exit in my 30s. And so the plan is, I said when I was like 35, I was like, you know what? I'm going to bring an MLS team to Connecticut, and by the time I'm 50, it's going to be one of the top 25 most valuable clubs in the world. And the only way that you do that is there's nobody else that I could just invest in to do that. I had to do it myself because everybody else thought I was crazy. But we're building the foundation to make that happen. So I just enjoy building stuff from scratch.
Damian, how about you? Tell me about the how. How do you, you're successful, obviously in your markets, very well known, but everyone doesn't end up in team ownership. But in particular, certainly, in something like the NBA.
Well, for me, growing up, I'm the son of an educator. My mom was a school teacher for 52 years in Louisiana, but my father, at the age of 18, was drafted as a AAA minor league baseball player for the St. Louis Cardinals. And so growing up, we recognized that sports was very important in our family. And he was actually, he wasn't even old enough to sign his own contract. My grandfather had to. And so sports having a foundation there combined with education, but also the different principles, the different things that he endured, combined with the different aspects that sports brings with winning and losing and understanding the different aspects of it. It's what's driven the foundation not only of my faith, but also of my business, which in turn, when this opportunity availed itself to join a phenomenal group just recently with the Hornets acquisition, it was an easy answer because meeting the people that I met, you can't cure stupid and you can't stop smart. And so the people in the room were extremely intelligent, not only passionate about winning, but also passionate about building something beyond what was already there. So they had to be visionaries. And even when you start an organization from scratch, you have to see something before you see it. And so to be able to be in the room with those individuals and be a part of something that's much larger than ourselves, as well as being able to represent things within the community that's not only aspirational, but inspirational. That's how we got here.
Great. Dom, how about you? Talk about the how.
I think just being an athlete, I understand the importance of the journey, and I just always committed to greatness. When I started the sport of gymnastics when I was 6 years old, I made it to my first Olympics when I was 15, my second Olympics when I was 19, and my third Olympics when I was 23. Eventually, I had to hang up that leotard and truly find what my next passion was in life. I did quite a few years of motivational speaking and aligning myself with different organizations that I'm passionate about the impact and the cause. And that led me to starting the Dominique Dawes Gymnastics and Ninja Academy in the midst of a global pandemic. I do not advise starting a business that wants thousands of kids to come through the doors during a pandemic. But my why behind that is wanting to change the culture of the sport of gymnastics and ensure it's a healthy environment for our young kids. And so even with the Atlanta Falcons ownership limited partner opportunity, what I loved about this opportunity was the fact that the owner, Arthur Blank, has done so much good in the community. It's not just about winning on the field, but more importantly, winning off the field and changing lives in a positive way. So for me, it's about enjoying the journey, but also recognizing the importance of that impact because it allows me to leave a great legacy.
So, André, I'll come back to you. So let's talk about what does it mean for you to be an owner in team sports?
It means a lot of things. So I think one of the things I've touched on, the impact on the community. So my wife and I both ran track at UConn, and I wasn't good enough to go to the Olympics, or else I would have kept on doing it. But I hurt my knee my junior year, and you really just start to realize that some of these opportunities, they don't last. It's one injury away, it's one change away, one missed opportunity. And when you think about, I missed some of the previous panel, but the topic is something that's very near and dear to me when you talk about youth participation in sports. The United States is a pay-for-play model in soccer, as it is in many sports. And the average family in Connecticut has to spend over $6,000 a year for their kids to play in any sort of elite team. And what that does is that eliminates a real barrier. I grew up playing Police Athletic League in the Bronx, right? There's no way in hell I would have been playing high-level basketball or track if my parents had to spend that type of money. And so I think the first thing was opportunity. By having a professional soccer team, we were able to launch already this year a free, fully funded professional academy, right, in MLS. So it's an opportunity. The second thing for the why is Connecticut is the largest. It's the most densely populated, high population, high per capita income market in America, with none of the top 5 professional teams. No NFL, no NBA, no MLB, NHL, or MLS. And so when you look at a market like that, that also is the top soccer viewing market in the country, And my last tech company managed all the targeting for streaming subscription. It over indexes in paying for subscription services. You start to just see business opportunity, right? If you have no competition and the most demand, it normally can lead to pretty good business. And then the last thing, which I think some people just aren't honest about, but for me, I have no problem saying it, it's ego, right? So this is where the titans of industry, we've seen some of the people that have been on stage, and I've been to Sportico events in the past. I mean, these are the names that you know, whether it's real estate or finance or technology. And so I'm pretty young, I've done pretty well. I just want to show what I can do too. So like, all right, let's see, let's get in the arena, right? I wasn't good enough to compete at that level, but I could build an organization that can, so.
Thank you. Damian, how about you? Talk to us about, what does it mean to be an LP with the teams you're with?
It's extremely humbling. I love to learn. I love to be around people that not only you could add value to the organization, but the organization can add value to you. But more importantly, I believe that our lives have to leave a legacy of permission to what people can accomplish beyond what they think they can normally do based on their personal situation. And I think, a lot of the allure around sports has to do with the athlete. But we all know that you have to be one of one. There's not a Dominique Dawes that wakes up every morning, but the inspiration of Dominique Dawes does for everyone that looks like her, that may not have the permission to be that because they didn't see that in their family. We have to be that example, and I think that you were that for a lot of us. Because guess what? I think that gold medal probably has a few people that could grab it and want it with you, right? And I think that's the same thing about this space. I was sitting in my office talking to an NFL running back on Saturday that I talked to 5 years ago that was drafted in 2017, and he just ended his career 7 years later. He came back to tell me on Saturday that the conversation he had with me when he was just a 21-year-old, 22-year-old young man was me giving him the advice to go back and complete his education. Because guess what? There's an expiration date on your athleticism. No one will beat Father Time. No one. And he went back and got his degree in business management, and now he's on to the next chapter of his life. So I think that that foundation of education, that foundation of not only a desire to be a part of something different and something larger than myself, but also to add value not only to the organization, but to the major things that people look at every day that we love to go and watch and see, which are the athletes, which I think sometimes gets lost into they don't have the benefit of being in the room like this around all of you smart, intelligent people in this space. But you know what? If you sit down and talk to them, you really understand that there's more than just play a game. That's probably the most insulting part of it, right?
Dom, I'm going to ask you this question a little bit differently, only because there were a few public people that were involved in the Falcons transaction. I was fortunate to work with you and Will Packer in particular on that transaction with Arthur. You have represented your country in the Olympics. You have represented your country in working with the White House and the President's Council. You've been involved in some really interesting things. And so I know that when the announcement about the Falcons happened, I know what the response was from other people and how important it was for them that you were involved and that you had become a team owner in this space. But what does that mean for you?
Yeah, it's been an interesting experience, I guess, living my life. I've had to embrace, in some ways, being in the public eye. If you get to know me, I'm very private, very introverted, and I could care less about, the fame. But I've learned to embrace it because it's an opportunity for me to make a greater impact. And every time I have an opportunity to speak to different crowds, there's a number of people that come up to me afterwards and they say, thank you for what you did for me as a young woman, or thank you for what you did for me as an individual of color that didn't think that it was possible what you did. And so I know when I was given this opportunity and, approved by the NFL and approved by Mr. Blank, I knew it was going to help other young women of color realize that they can achieve something great too. But what made me so excited about this organization is truly the fact that we're not just focused on winning on the field, but more importantly, we want to make a positive impact off the field. And so far, I've been very involved in the Atlanta community and look forward to doing so much more, and also what makes this journey so much more fruitful. And one thing we haven't talked about, and I always talk about it, is my number one vocation and calling in life today is truly being a mom. And so the fact that I can go to home games with my 4 beautiful kids and my awesome husband, he's kind of awesome most of the time, but my husband makes this journey.
He's awesome. Jeff, you're awesome.
Oh, not always, but you're not married to him. But with my 4 kids, this is what makes it so great. And so them seeing that we're winning on the field, but more importantly, that we're giving back in the community and being a part of the community, that's what I think is going to leave that lasting impact.
So let's talk a little bit more about impact. And André, I'm going to come back down to you. What does your being in team ownership, what impact does that have to the next generation? What impact does that have to kids in New York, in the Bronx in particular, in Connecticut?
I think it's one that can't be understated or overstated. I'm not sure exactly which one to call it, but I'll give an anecdotal story. So we had our expansion announcement press conference in January in Connecticut. The next day, I flew to Anaheim for the National Soccer Coaches Association meeting or conference. So it was like thousands of coaches from all over the country and the world, and every black exec, every black coach that I saw must have came up to me. Several cried because they're like, didn't think, there's not even any black coaches in MLS relative to the percentage of players, right? I think there's 2 in the whole league right now. And so it was a little overwhelming for me, but I saw what that meant to them. I did an interview on Hot 97 where we talked about even the other teams in the Northeast, right? Most of the ownership groups, like New York Red Bulls, it's Austrian ownership, right? The NYCFC partnership with the City Football Group, right? From the Middle East. And so even in the Northeast, I'm the only guy who's from here. Like, I'm born and raised in the Bronx. I could barely afford to go to Yankees games, right? I was telling Cal that I had the $6 bleacher seats in the summer, right? Back in the late 80s and early 90s. And so I think, whether it's for black kids or even just like New York City, tri-state area, inner city kids, I think to be able to, many of which can't go to Knicks games and Giants games and Yankees games and stuff like that, to have somebody own a team and looking to put a bid in on full MLS and other sports, I think it makes it seem more tangible. And I don't think I'm exceptional from that standpoint. Like, I wasn't the smartest kid in my block in the Bronx. I wasn't the best athlete, even though I was a D1 athlete. There were better athletes to me in my neighborhood. Had scholarships to Hotchkiss and all these other stuff. I wasn't the smartest kid in middle school. So I think a lot of times it's just opportunity or the mentality that something is possible. So, yeah.
Extremely humble, because you got amazing ability, and we'll get back to that in a moment. But Damian, how about you? When you think about coming, out of Louisiana, spending a lot of time in Greensboro in particular early on, and primarily being based in Charlotte, what is being an LP with 3 different league sports in your area? What impact does that have in the community?
Oh, phenomenal! I mean, you end up being an example of what's possible. Echoing what you said, what's possible if you dream big. I think everyone has to have. If you're not blessed to have the example in your home of what you can accomplish, we all have to have permission to aspire to be great. And that permission generally comes in someone that either looks like us from an ethnicity standpoint, from a gender standpoint, from one of those different things. I believe small hinges move big doors. Small things in life, the small things that we do, that we give back, that we take that time to not only pour into, but also to be an example and to encourage because encouragement leads to empowerment, and that's how we get here. And you know what? I have a mantra within our group, and in my company we call it GSD. I'll let you guys get stuff done. Y'all can put that middle word. And then whenever we talk about what we've done, I say keep going. Because guess what? It doesn't stop until it stops. Keep going. And that's how you get to the next level. Never allow someone's ceiling to become your ceiling. Make it your floor.
You know, it's interesting. I now working the space and being around folks and talking about the importance of diversity and ownership. Some people that I talk to, perhaps ignorant, say, well, I guess, the leagues may want to just put, anybody in just to meet a quota or to just throw some color or a woman on the cap table. But I think if those people took a look at this panel and the other folks that are in ownership in these major league sports, they would see, how impressive these folks are, in the entire careers that they've had that have led them on this journey to put themselves in the position to even be in the conversation. But Dom, speaking of which, you are among only 6 black women who have ownership in the National Football League. You and Roz in Atlanta, two in Denver, and the Williams sisters in Miami. Talk about that and what that means for you and the opportunities for other women of color.
Well, I think it's just important for women to have a place at the table, for us to have a voice, for us to be heard. The ownership group should be representative of not only the community, the players, and what have you, and also just for us to have that voice. And I think, as I mentioned earlier, just other young women of color or young men of color seeing the diversity increase, I think, will help them realize that they too have an opportunity possibly at the table to have a voice. And it just seems to be a blessing, a very great opportunity, but I also want to make sure through this blessing that I find a way to open doors for others to be able to step through the door so that they can have a voice and make a difference.
André, I'm going to come back to you real quick. Dom is an LP in 2 sports, obviously, with the Washington Spirit in WSL. Damian in LP with 3 different leagues. I would say you either are crazy or have the hubris to start an expansion team yourself. Why start an expansion team? I mean, you could come in as an LP, perhaps on another team. Why do this? And what's the bold vision?
So I sold my tech company to TransUnion in 2020, and I started looking at investing in joining a group and acquiring a team in England. And I started looking at the amount of money that was going to be leaving the community that I'm in and going halfway across the world. And then I started thinking about, well, I actually want to go see games, and then that cost and that time drain. And I was like, what am I doing? I was like, I can do something here. But really going back to it, it's business, right? Sports is big business, right? And I think of sports more and more like entertainment as a service, right? So I ran a SaaS company. And when I just started to look at all the metrics, literally, and this is gonna be my 30-second indulge me diatribe on Connecticut, literally when you have 3.6 million people with none of the top 5 major sports that spend more per capita than every other market in the country just about, and it's just the highest soccer viewing market without a team. It just was a no-brainer, and then you have to go into finding the stadium site and all that stuff. But once all that stuff came together, it just made perfect sense, and I think I just had the guts to try to do it. I'm more afraid of the regret of not trying than failing. So,
before we close up, really quickly, I'm going to come to Damian. You invest in the Hornets. Why the push for NWSL? Why come into women's sports?
Well, I have twin daughters, and I'm a girl dad. I'm a proud girl dad.
There we go.
Right? Unapologetic girl dad, right? Got a son too, but no. Got a son too.
Also.
But unapologetic girl dad, right? And my daughters, they were like, well, Dad, you do all this with, I mean, everything around the house. You didn't even play basketball, Dad. Okay, you need to find something that's women's sports. So I tell my kids, like I tell people in our business, bring me the data. Don't give me your feelings, bring me the data. So they did the research, and they showed me the trajectory. They showed me the information. They showed me what was going on, and I said, okay, we'll find something, and it just so happens, I kind of believe when you look for things find you when you're looking for them too. And the opportunity availed itself to be with the NC Courage. And so we're very excited about that opportunity as well in our home state of North Carolina. So very excited. Yes.
Well, I want to thank all my panelists. I want to thank also their folks in the audience, John Ledecky, Jim Nash, folks that have been very supportive of us on this quest, and we appreciate you all. We need advocates out there in this space, so thank you very much.